This will be better. So now we're just seeing that this is working. Now if I go into the ball class, notice each ball is being drawn at an XY location. And one of the things we knew how to do is look up the color at an XY location. So let me grab this. And in display, I'm going to ask for a color at that location. And I'm going to say fill with that color. Okay, so here's one problem. We were so loosey-goosey about using floating point numbers because Proston kind of just took care of that for us. When we're about to look in the pixel array, we really have to have an integer. So we've got to convert our x and y's from float to int. So this is yet another error you're probably going to see from time to time. Cannot convert from float to int. It means, what that really means is, will you please convert from float to int for me? Right? So I converted x and y to integers. Now, here's another error you're going to see a lot of the time. Array index out of bounds exception. What does that mean, does one think?
Fully out of the boundary of the
Right.
screen.
Right. Our array goes from 0 to some number n. If you, let's say this number is 300. If you ask for, in this case, for some reason I ask for spot negative 174, that's not in the array. If I ask for 450, that's not in the array. I'm out of bounds of the array. Well, where am I looking at an array? Right here. So pix is going out of bounds. There's a nice function called constrain. Where I can say, whatever value I happen to calculate for this pix, make sure it's not less than 0 or greater than the length of the array minus 1. And the reason I have that minus 1 there, remember, is because an array, if it has an array that has 5 elements in it, the index values are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So the last element is the length minus 1. So now let's run this again. We can see now wherever those objects are, they're drawing themselves with the color directly of the fish behind. And if there's a couple things we can try to do. First, we can not draw the fish, and we can maybe try having many more little dots. Maybe we can almost make it out if we got enough dots in there. You know, not so much, sort of not, it's too high resolution. But what we can do is, let's not erase the background, so we can start smearing the colors. And also, we probably shouldn't have a stroke. An outline, I mean. Now you can see that, you know, it's funny that that fish had so much detail that maybe if we make the dots a little bit smaller, and we go back to having more of them, you can start to see that it's kind of painting the image of that fish just from these dots moving around. And what might actually be even nicer is if I take out the red, I have this right here, the red, green, and blue components, so that I can actually add an alpha. You know, it's some arbitrary number. And now you can see it's sort of blending. And maybe, I should stop at some point, but maybe each one of these we give a different size. So our circles are all different sizes. Ooh, whoa. How did I make that?
You had an R already.
Oh, right. R is the color. Yeah, so let's call this radius. Thank you. So this is a very common problem. You use the same name for a variable and it doesn't tell you you did that. So just to make this more obvious, and we'll make the alpha a little bit higher. Okay, yeah, the problem is I sometimes get obsessed with tweaking things. Anyway, I think I made it worse. But the point is, an image doesn't have to just be an image that you display. It can actually be a database of color. And that's essentially what this is. There's a database of color, and I have an independent drawing system moving around the screen, and it's using that database as a lookup table to pull colors from. So I don't know what my goal here was. Maybe it was supposedly to maybe make it look like sort of like a painting of the fish, which we didn't succeed at. But you could definitely play with the values, play with the transparency, use different shapes, and get to that result. Or maybe you're just making something very abstract where you want a color palette, and you think a certain photo you took has beautiful colors in it. You could just use that photo as a place to get colors from. And again, this is also, it's not as interesting to try to do things that Photoshop could just already do. So this is something that Photoshop couldn't do that you could do in processing. So you created your own independent drawing system, and that independent drawing system is sort of smearing colors from an image.